about full contact fights. So you want to, when you're afraid, so you want to avoid the contact. And I went to the fight and I was just trying to kind of survive there. I was afraid of the contact, stepped back constantly and tried to come up with excuses that I cannot do anything.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Welcome back. It is your favorite time of the week. It's my favorite time of the week. It's time for Leaders Talk. And today I have as my guest somebody who's very, very interesting. We have a black belt guest here today, literally, Aslak de Silva. So let me introduce you to Aslak here. Aslak is a leadership expert, author, and a dynamic executive with a rich multicultural background. He's born in Finland to Sri Lankan and Finnish parents, and his global perspective shaped his approach to business leadership. He's a former world champion in martial arts, and Aslak's journey in Hanman Mudo. Is that how you pronounce it, Aslak?
Yeah, pretty close, Chris.
Yeah. There you go. I'm glad I got that right. Has deeply influenced his career, where he led organizations like Selfie Store and Nordic Business Forum to success. He's recognized for his expertise in digital transformation and AI, earning accolades as Influencer of the Year in 2023 in self-service and automation. Aslak is the co-author of the Amazon bestseller, The Winner's Mindset, and host of the Black Belt in Leadership podcast, another fellow podcaster. So with a Master of Science in International Management and a track record of scaling global businesses, he inspires leaders worldwide through his speaking, consulting, and board roles. And importantly to us, he is the author of The Black Belting Leadership, 20 Tested Lessons from the Dojo to the Boardroom. Aslak, welcome. That is a lot to begin with. And a lot of it's fascinating. I kind of want to do a deep dive in here. So, in your own words, introduce yourself to our audience.
Well, thanks, Andrew. I mean, like, what else is there to say? Well, you have quite
I'm sure there's something. We can't just end right now. We've got a half hour to play with.
Sure. I mean, yeah, thanks for having me here, and I'm super excited about the book. And in general, I mean, this has been a great time for me to be able to kind of bring those learnings to real life. So my kind of first career was in martial arts, as you mentioned there.
Right.
15, 20 years really into martial arts. I think I had a privilege to be learning from a master who was teaching the kind of old style, where actually I lived 100 days a year with him, just like to learn everything from how to cook food, how to stretch, how to train, how to sleep, how to meditate, and so on. And I was super into martial arts, about 100 full contact fights, world champion, as you mentioned there, been coaching in 5 different countries with more than 50 clubs there. Then I got injured, as many sports people do, and I did recover from some injuries, but then my hand was broken twice in a way that then the doctor said that you better stop fighting and find something else. I was lucky. I had a mother who was saying that you need to study as well, so don't put all eggs into one basket and just trust that you're going to make it as a martial artist. So I had studied my master's degree in international management, but I had to start with entry-level positions. And I started with telecenters, telesales, and I was really bad at them. But then I thought that, well, I manage in martial arts. I've used to take punches, and I've recovered. So why can't I do sales or something? And I started applying the same principles that I was taught in martial arts. Just be resilient, adapt, learn from everybody, become better every day, and someday you'll succeed. And just diligently did that every day. And fast forward maybe 10 years, and I noticed to being a leader in a bigger companies, running a CEO of multinational companies, and then applying again the same principles. And so now, Nordic Business Forum, I was there for 4 years as CEO, and now Selfie Store was acquired by a competitor. And then I had a bit of time, so I thought, well, why don't I write the book, since I had about 15, 20 years in martial arts, now 15, 20 years leading companies. So I thought this was kind of a good time for me to stop and put that in paper. And then now here we are with the book just freshly out.
Yeah. And I find this fascinating because, when I very first heard about you and began kind of looking into when I came aboard as an author with us, I was wondering, is like, how many lessons from martial arts can you apply to business? And the mental training obviously is kind of the first step. And the fact that you do have to actually mentally train yourself to be an effective martial artist, just like you do in any kind of sport. So, kind of walk us through a little bit of the process. I'm sure you go into the book, but just describe to us, what kind of things can business leaders find from the kind of training that you are able to offer and have had in your past?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Thanks for asking that. So, I mean, many think when we say that like resilience or something like that, you're mentally strong. But what I'm really kind of deep diving in is more like, okay, like what does actually vision mean? It's like
Mm,
when I started as a white belt, so I wanted to be a black belt, right? So I had a vision where I could be, I had a dream, and we tend to have these same things in professional lives as well, but there's no path. In martial
right.
arts, it's quite clear. You know that, hey, you will not get the black belt in the second training, not even the third. You need to train several years, but you know it's step by step you're going there. And during the training, you'll understand like, okay, what do I need to develop in order to get to the black belt? And when I was coming to the professional life, so I was thinking the same way that when I started in the entry level position, so I was thinking like, well, I want to be a CEO of a multinational company. So that was my plan, and I was working towards that. And then I noticed that other people around me, they wished maybe the same, but they were not working the same way. So that's why I wanted to kind of in the book as well to kind of go step by step, but what does that require? It's anything from like having a mental block that you don't want to go to training anymore, or maybe you lose your motivation, and a lot about fear as well. So like how to deal with the fear when you have to actually often deal the fear before you enter the ring, whereas many people, I know there are many other fellow keynote speakers as well, who kind of get frightened when they are on the stage, and that's too late. You need to deal with that before. So then I've been thinking that, okay, there are a lot of learning from martial arts that are pretty simple but require a lot of training. But if the leaders knew those, so they could actually advance a lot better in their career, but also lead better in their teams already now today.
Yeah, and you bring up fear, and I think that's something that we underestimate a lot in business leadership. I mean, I heard actually one of my coworkers brought it up, but he said it, and I looked into it. It was a very interesting thing. Like procrastination is just the embodiment of fear. It's
Sure.
just when you have something in front of you and you know it's a task that you want to complete and you don't complete it, really at the heart of it, it's because you're afraid to actually take the chance. Whether or not you succeed or not isn't in your mind. It's that you're just scared to do it. So, tell us a little bit about overcoming those kind of blocks like executive dysfunction or procrastination that runs into well pretty much any business leader.
Yeah, I mean, I use an example of fight that I was going to a fight, so I noticed the guy that my opponent warming up, and
Hmm.
I said, oh, he looks so strong and so quick and everything, and so already I was like there that I cannot win. And when I'm talking about full contact fight, so you want to, when you're afraid, so you want to avoid the contact. And I went to the fight and I was just trying to kind of survive there. I was afraid of the contact, step back constantly and try to come up with excuses that I cannot do anything.
Hmm.
And actually, in the fight, the opponent wasn't that strong. He wasn't good in fighting. He was good in kicking, but if that's a different thing. And I remember after the fight, I went to the locker room. I lost it and was inactive, and I started to cry because I was so ashamed of me. And I was like that. Why didn't I try? What was I afraid of? And then I started to realize that okay, there were reasons what I was afraid of, like you were saying, procrastination or something. But then we really dig into that. Is that why do we feel that? And
Hmm.
then I started to learning that okay, that why don't you deal with the fears before? So nowadays, when I go to like I mean situations where you have to let go of people, for instance. So I'm afraid that what how do will they react when I come to them and say the trusted person that hey, now is the time that I need to let you go. That we cannot afford to have you here. Maybe the situation, financial situation of the company is not there, or maybe the person is not performing. Now I deal that before. So I'm thinking before I go there, maybe even a week before that, I'm questioning myself that is this the right call? I'm then going through all these things that could happen in that meeting. Maybe the person gets angry at me, or maybe I feel I started to start to stutter or something. So I deal with those insecurities before, and then I'm kind of observing my mind that how does that make me feel? It's still okay that it feels bad, but it's not okay that you stop doing what you're supposed to do. And to me, the fear is like it's more blocking our actions than our mind. We tend to talk to ourselves, even if we're afraid of something, that we can do that, but we're blocking our actions. And then you need to learn to deal with that. And that's again from martial arts that before you enter the ring, you need to deal with all your insecurities. I said you need to fight your demons before you are entering the ring, and you can push yourself to be afraid 2 weeks before the fight as many times. And I'm sure that all the fighters go through this. They are afraid to lose. They are afraid that they get hurt. But anyways, they deal that before they enter the ring, and then they can perform at their best.
And I feel like that there is maybe an epidemic in not just business, but just in general thinking, in which I think we overemphasize the negative. When people think about outcomes, the very first thing that tends to come to their mind is what can go wrong? What will be the negative outcome of what happens? I mean, even in media right now, people that go to the movies, they're going in thinking, oh, well, this probably is going to be terrible, so I lower my expectations. But they don't think about the positive that could come. So do you think that's a problem that people need to overcome right now?
Well, I agree with you that that's many times the problem there, that we don't see the positive, and we are already pessimistic, and then we are maybe still, when we see the things, that both sides of the coin, so we're looking at the side that's can go wrong. But
Yeah.
there I would still challenge us to think that, okay, it's still fine to think what can go wrong, and that's part of
Right.
one scenario that can happen, but there are other scenarios that can happen too, and you need to be prepared for them. I remember when I was studying, there was this quote, something like luck is when preparation meets opportunity, something like that. So I remember that if you work hard, luck can happen to you or can come to you. So it's never, luck is apart from lottery maybe, so it's not accidental. So you have to be ready for that. And actually, I feel that I've missed many opportunities since I wasn't ready to succeed. And sometimes it's even scary when you start succeeding. So that's the flip side of it as well. But you need to prepare your mind for both sides and build different scenarios, and then maybe decide that which scenario do you want to go for. And then you have more maybe self-esteem, self-confidence towards that as well, because you have seen the other angles. And this is again the martial artist, that you cannot go to a fight saying that, okay, I have only one punch and I'll try it once and that's it, whatever happens. No, you need to be prepared for everything possible that is coming. Doesn't mean that you prepare for everything equally, but you need to prepare and think that this can happen, and then you see the opportunities, and then you have your strategy, and then you move forward with that.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point there as well, that sometimes success can be as much of a problem as failure. It's and you see that a lot in sports. You see the athlete that buys his own press, that reads too much. You see it in martial arts, you see it in football, you see it in any kind of sport, of somebody that sometimes gets too invested in it. But you also see it in business a lot, where when you have success, you then begin to stop thinking about the things that might go wrong, and make decisions that maybe are hubristic. So, how do you get that kind of thing in control?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was the CEO for Nordic Business Forum, which is one of the, or maybe the biggest leadership conference in Europe. We had in the audience almost 10,000 people, and live stream covered by tens of thousands of people watching. COVID-19 came. What happens? The business became illegal, and immediately, and we had almost sold out events. So we had tickets. We had several months to go before the event, but we couldn't do any live events. So what can we do? So then that time we went for online events, webinars and master classes and others, and tried that out there and tried to go for. It never succeeded to the level that it would have been a viable business on its own. And when the kind of physical events came back, so they were way better business, and that's why the company is still alive. But in that moment, there was actually board of directors saying, and the owner, the co-founders, the company saying that what could be the worst thing that could happen to the business, and that was that you cannot run the business. And then the question is, okay, the venue could burn down, or maybe there's a war or something. So we had an insurance to cover those things. So again, it was more or less saying it out loud, that what could be the worst thing that can happen, prepare for that enough, and that insurance covered that. So that was then the kind of the reason. So to me, it's again kind of coming back to that, you have to understand what could go wrong and prepare for that to the level that you're not ruining your company. And then apart from that, then you focus on the success part and start building diligently every day, become better on that.
So I hear a lot of balance
Yeah.
that we need to find in basically how we live life and how we approach business. So it's kind of just to change course a little bit here. What was your inspiration to begin to actually tell your story in the form of a book? I mean, obviously you had your public speaking and you have reached a lot of people through other methods, but why a book at this stage?
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, book is at the same time a learning path for me. So I was thinking, okay, that many times people ask me that, okay, you have a extensive martial arts background, so how is it visible in your leadership? And then I was thinking a bit on seeing the results. So I remember the first time that I was a leader, so I wasn't good at it. So I was comparing, like, okay, what was the difference? Like, how do I deal with people and all that? So I started to write notes for me. So I'm when I get an idea, so I write it down. So for about 10 years, I had covered all these notes and these kind of light bulb moments, and then been training myself as a leader. So attending different conferences like Nordic Business Forum and others to learn. I had actually have like 500 pages written down from those conferences notes. And I was thinking like, okay, there should be something unique that I have built up from these things. And then I was asking that, what are those things? And then friends have also many times said that, why don't you write a book when you could actually put those in places? And then I think, yeah, it just came quite quickly. I remember first, like maybe I have 10 lessons to teach. Like in a martial arts, you would have a teacher or master to teach, but then I noticed, okay, I have more. So then I came up with 20 different ones. And then I was like, okay, this is now good enough that it will be a book so that people will learn. And then I felt that, okay, I have to put it there because it helps me to think, but at the same time, I kind of I felt that from the conversations that I had from the keynotes and others, that I have something unique that I'm talking about. Again, I know that there are many great sport references and others, but when you kind of go to the martial arts, when you are actually fighting an opponent, it's very humbling. And you, when you lose, I have lost, even if I have 100 fights, I have lost maybe 20% of them and 180, which is the good side of me. But then I've learned through the pain and everything. It's a bit different when you kind of fight against the person than you do
Right.
sports. There's some nuances that are different, and that's what I was thinking. Okay, I really need to dig into these and explain to people that, okay, what's the difference? Because I notice as well that when I'm talking about this, so many people actually understand that they don't need to go through that rigorous martial arts training. They can still understand what I'm talking about. The metaphor maybe starts from martial arts, but other than that, it's more leadership lessons that I'm talking about there with these examples that we were talking here as well, sharing openly in the book that when sometimes when things go south and sometimes when they go really well, from the leadership perspective as well.
Yeah. And you make a really good point that when you talk about martial arts, it's very different from when people think about organized team sports or things like that, because you're it's a direct one-on-one. You're facing someone down directly. But yeah, the exactly the mental buildup, all the things that you have kind of do have a lot of back and forth and a lot of cross pollination. You know, I guess you would say between leadership and business. So what are you hoping to have as the results of this book? What do you want some of the people to take away? I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but when it really comes down to it, when they read this book, what do you want them to have from it?
Yeah, I built it in kind of a four sections. So there are 20 lessons. So first is like understanding discipline. What does that mean? And basically how discipline beats motivation. So it's not about like what do you want to achieve? Are you motivated today? It's more like just doing it every day towards that. So the first part is more about the discipline. Then the second part is then the mindset part of a master, like where you build like that. Okay, how does a master think in these situations? Again, I'm not a master, so it doesn't mean that I master everything that I'm kind of writing about, but it means that, okay, how is it the difference to think like a master compared to maybe a normal black belt or even white belt in a way, then and that's also then applicable for businesses. Then we talk about a bit on the inner fight, because we have all these obstacles, anything from, I mean, some people have suffered from burnout or they lose their motivation, how to kind of lead in those critical moments when you have no good options, and you still
Yeah.
have to lead. So kind of you fight in your inner fight first, and then you kind of find your path there. And then the last part is more on the path forward, where we kind of go through the how martial artist also thinks life as a whole. It's not only about the fighting, but kind of understanding of what else is there to kind of keep your energy at the right moment, how to recover and rest. So I hope that people kind of, I've written in a way that there are kind of small tasks there. So 5 reflection questions that would make you think. And I hope that the leaders, the readers after that feel like that, okay, hey, I understand myself better. I understand that I should work with different options and kind of open up their mind. In the end, this is not kind of um, leadership book that you would have all these concepts that you would remember after that. But what I'm talking more is about developing leadership instincts. So when you are in a fight, it's never about the techniques, more about instincts that, okay, now I need to step back because something might happen. You are already too late if you wait for the punch to come and then step back. So I'm trying to teach these kind of different instincts for leaders to learn and to observe the things differently. One thing that I still have to mention, sorry for babbling so much, but is the emotional intelligence. So I was reading a lot about it and thinking that, okay, I want to be good with people, but then I actually realized that I'm in a fight, you only read emotions because you're trying to see if the opponent is afraid of you, how's their self-confidence, and the whole atmosphere around the fight. And that's how you became the master of reading the emotions. Of course, in a fight, you're trying to kind of capitalize the opportunity, but as a leader, you need to do exactly the same thing. And that's why I believe that the people who read the book, I think this will open up their eyes a lot, that what can you actually see and sense in a situation that you're never heard about before. And when you kind of crack that code is like a puzzle pieces going together. And after that, you will always see the world and the people differently because you can sense a lot more than before.
And I like that. And I think that's a very unique take because I've talked to a lot of authors and some of them, not to say they're saying the wrong thing, but many of them say downplay instincts and try to learn methodologies and things that are, A, B, C and always do this. But I kind of like what you're saying because I feel that instinct is important. We all have that's kind of ingrained in us, the feeling that we get when we read a room and we see things. And by putting that in a pocket and putting that away, we're not really learning anymore. We're taking away the ability to take those lessons from instinct and apply it through then adding a methodology on top of it. So yeah, I mean, is that kind of what you want people to take away on that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, even if you're starting like a martial art, so again, a white belt, so you come there and you are sparring, so you have an instinct to try something. And if you're a black belt and you're looking at the situation, you see totally different things. Right. But again, you need to try. So I feel that we are maybe too afraid to kind of trust those things. And of course, with instincts, it means that if you do something wrong, you learn that too. So again, it's part of that and the emotions that you get from that. So I when I'm leading people, so many times I get home and I'm like that, why on earth did I behave like that? Or like, why did I say that? That's the only way I can learn. If I read all the perfect books, everything, and knew the theory, but I had no kind of experience from real life and no kind of self-reflection after that, no instincts would develop for me. So this is the difference, that what I want the readers also to kind of find out from themselves, that are they really reflecting on these moments and how to develop their instincts to be better, and with experience that can only happen. So many times we are afraid to try out new things because we feel they are going to the wrong way. But I deliberately, when I've been changing companies, for instance, so I tried to be a different leader. And when I changed from Nordic Business Forum to Self-Restore, I took an approach being kind of more visionary and being bold, making quick decisions. And that changed me as a leader. And luckily that was to the better direction. Of course, not with everything, but I mean that if I didn't try that, I would never seen my kind of strengths as a leader being opportunistic, visionary, if I never tried that. And then again, I know that the next step I'm taking, I will have again new tools and new experiences and better instincts than ever before.
Yeah. I love that because there's a lot to take away in that. I mean, heck, Gordon Ramsay probably had an instinct to touch a hot element when he was a baby, but he was way different when he became a Michelin star chef and applying his learnings that he had in between then. But Aslak, as we're kind of winding down here, I think we've got a lot of golden nuggets. I usually ask for one at this point, but I think that we've actually hit on quite a few for for our audience to chew on. But yeah, just something to leave our audience with before we part. Anything that you just want them to take away that maybe we haven't discussed?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I love Bruce Lee and his famous quotes again. So I believe he many times he has smart things to say. There are a couple of things that maybe from him that I could borrow. One is that take action every day towards your goal. So again, I would challenge all of us to kind of try something new, try to be better, and boldly as a leader. It doesn't mean that you need to change your direction, but just try. And with trying, you learn a lot. And then the other one is, of course, that you will kind of like don't stop when you succeeded once, just continue until it kind of you succeed all the time, and then you have learned the leadership skills. So in the same way as in martial arts you have belt levels and kind of skill set levels, so push yourself to the limit where your success is not based on luck, it's because you are that good as a leader. So maybe that's then what I'm hoping for me and the listeners as well, to kind of overcome to that level. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Aslak, how can some of our audience find out more about you?
Yeah, so I'm the only Aslak de Silva in the world, so you will probably find, even if you misspell my name. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn. I have my own website, aslakdesilva.com, for kind of main things, and then the Black Belt in Leadership concept, so the blackbeltleadership.com, and the book as well on Amazon and elsewhere on Barnes and Nobles and many other stores. So you can find me there, and yeah, please be in touch, and happy to share feelings of when you have read the book or otherwise as well.
Perfect. Yes. And ladies and gentlemen, those links are down below. It is the Black Belt in Leadership, 20 tested lessons from the dojo to the boardroom. Aslak, I loved having you on. I think we'll have you on again, see how the book goes, and maybe touch base later on and see what's come of it. So yeah, again, best of luck for you and all of your endeavors.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Pleasure to being here.
Thank you.